Hello and welcome to Airheads, a not-so-serious look at the serious business of royal rumours, gossip and gowns. I'm Tom.
And I'm Maeve.
And we are back from our break to address the very serious issue that is on everybody's mind at the moment.
Finally, we are going to break down everything we know about why the youngest son of the future king is being educated by a monkey puppet.
This is so good. So we learnt this week from the Daily Mail that Kate has been taking Louis to monkey music sessions. These are £12 classes where you get directed around by a monkey puppet to different sounds.
It's like a singing and dancing class for babies and toddlers and young kids. It sounds like it's a real phenomenon for like West London posh mums. I'd never heard of it before, but apparently there are dozens of these events running all over the country every day, and the Mail had the exclusive on the fact that Kate goes along with Louis and she takes orders from a monkey puppet.
It sounds like a cult though, doesn't it? When they say there are dozens of these all over the country, it sounds like a movement.
I love the visual we get here when the Mail reporter says, I can reveal that Kate gets stuck in. The classes are led by a monkey puppet who asks mums to sing with their babies and dance around the room holding scarves.
The relevance of the scarves is not really that clear. Also, how do you think the monkey puppet addresses Kate? HLH? Man like jam?
Your Royal Highness? Kate? Mummy, probably. I bet the monkey puppet calls everyone mummy, and I bet it says it in like a monkey voice. Like a posh West London monkey voice. Whatever that sounds like. I like that there are 4 stages of these classes, and they all have like kind of funky names. So the first one for children up to 12 months is called rock and roll. And Louis is probably in the second stage, hi ho, which is for toddlers from 12 months and up.
What does hi ho involve?
I mean, they all kind of involve the same stuff. There's like time for singing, time for playing, time for dancing, time for relaxing, like sleeping basically. But the bit that I liked a lot in the class description was about how the monkeys' songs have been especially written to support child's early language development, which is so Kate. We know she's obsessed with early years, the early years initiative. Colourful props aid visual memory, while repeated actions reinforce a feel for the steady beat.
Oh my god, Louis and the steady beat.
Louis always on beat. Oh my god, I cannot wait to see him and George giving every other royal a run for their money with their dancing skills.
That'd be so good.
I think Kate is a big fan because I noticed on the website they have little recommendations from anonymous monkey music mums. And we have heard before that Kate apparently likes to lurk among the comments on Mumsnet.
Monkey Music Mumsnet.
And Tom, I think this is Kate that's saying, my baby absolutely loves monkey music. The classes are amazing. They're fun, interactive and enjoyable for adults too.
She loves it.
Is this the highlight of Kate's week?
I mean, with everything that's going on, it would be the highlight, right?
Is this why she cancelled that appearance she was meant to make last week? Because she had urgent childcare issues?
She had dozens of classes all around the country to attend.
She had an urgent monkey music session. The monkey puppet ordered and she obeyed.
Well, if she's lurking in the comments on Monkey Music Mumsnet, someone who isn't reading the comments at the moment has got to be Prince Andrew.
Oh my god.
A lot has happened since we went on break. The fallout from his interview was kind of the first thing, which led to him stepping down from his duties as royal. And
for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, basically being sacked. And the whole circumstances around that have been so muddled as to who gave the order, where did this come from. They seem to agree to allow Andrew to
save face and say that he asked the Queen's permission to step back, when all the reports around it are saying that actually Charles called up the Queen and was like, he's got to go. And the Queen eventually told Andrew to resign.
Yeah. Charles used his long-distance call.
The actual statement that Andrew released was, oh my God, such an eye roll. Like, finally saying what he couldn't bring himself to say at all during that Newsnight interview. I continue to unequivocally regret my ill-judged association with Jeffrey Epstein. His suicide has left many unanswered questions, particularly for his victims, and I deeply sympathise with everyone who has been affected and wants some form of closure. Was that very hard?
It's bullshit that he didn't just say that on the show. But since then, he's been dropped by quite a few of his over 180 patronages, and that includes the English National Ballet and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. And Pitch at Palace, that's all up in the air. Lots of sponsors have dropped out, and they might not even be allowed to be called Pitch at Palace anymore. They might just be Pitch.
Yeah, because he has lost his office at Buckingham Palace. They will no longer be holding the events at the palace. But Andrew might have to resign altogether because it emerged that there was a clause that said he was entitled to a 2% share of any investment deal that was struck in Pitch at Palace, though he says he's never taken advantage of it.
This is so stupid because it is really bad that he has this clause in, but it also makes him seem like a really shit dragon from Dragon's Den. Like, they always ask for 10 or 15% on Dragon's Den, and he's just like 2%.
But that's not even the worst thing that's happened to him. There were public polls. There was a YouGov poll that found that 51% of people want Andrew banned from public events attended by the entire royal family, like Trooping the Colour, and that only 8% of the people surveyed believe he was actually telling the truth in that interview. Like, who are those 8%? Who believed any of that? And even worse was he found himself embroiled in a racism scandal that Rohan Silva, who is an Evening Standard columnist and a former Downing Street advisor to David Cameron, claimed Andrew had used the N-word during a meeting at Buckingham Palace about trade policy in 2012. Something that palace sources have categorically denied, and they've apparently sent a legal letter to the Standard over it.
But also, the former Home Secretary, Jackie Smith, has also alleged that he made unbelievable racist jokes about Arabs and camels at a state banquet for the Saudi royal family at the palace.
His defence as well is shocking.
Oh.
In a statement from the palace, His Royal Highness has undertaken a considerable amount of work in the Middle East over a period of years and has many friends from the region. He does not tolerate racism in any form. He seriously used the I have Arab friends. Can you imagine Meghan's reaction to this?
Oh my god. I mean, nothing that he does in this situation is the right decision. Like, he's incapable of saying the right thing, or his team are incapable of getting him out of these scrapes.
But it just shows again that he doesn't have people around him who tell him this stuff isn't okay, and it just speaks to the outrageous sense of entitlement that he has.
And it shows as well that this has been going on for so long. Like, yes, we're looking at the Epstein stuff right now, but that he has been not even low-key awful. These are really bad things to be like, really, really bad. But he's just been doing this for years, and no one's been talking about them, or no one's been allowed to talk about them all this time.
We got a little update on Beatrice and Eugenie as well. I know people have been feeling a lot for the princesses, and apparently Andrew wants Beatrice and Eugenie to take over many of the royal patronages he has been forced to surrender, according to the Sunday Times last weekend. They also had this very good remark from one charity leader, Stephen Bubb, who's director of the think tank Charity Futures, who said that Andrew shouldn't treat his patronages as a dowry for his daughters. Like, ouch.
Yeah.
We also heard a little bit more about Beatrice's engagement to Edoardo Montpellier-Mozzi. There was a story in the Mail on Sunday today. As we know, they got engaged a few months ago now, and apparently in aristocratic circles the tradition is that you have a wedding within 6 months of getting engaged.
TikTok.
Yeah, and she's up against the clock, according to a source. But she has finally been given royal permission to throw an engagement party, meaning it's all systems go for the big day.
Yeah. we've not been told anything about the big day yet, but the party is going to be at the Chiltern Firehouse on December 18th, so clear your calendars. Andrew has been invited. So that's going to be a really relaxed and not at all stressful event.
Well, we know he doesn't really like partying, so he may not stick around for long.
Oh, there might only be 10 to 12 people here. So.
The Queen is also said to have signed off on a wedding date, although just a week ago, but she's still refusing to allow any official announcement of the date until after the election here.
Yeah.
Though Beatrice's friends have been sent save the dates. It's another reminder that this is all happening during a general election.
It's like such a funny thing to me that they're like, oh, we mustn't announce the official date of the wedding until after the election. You know, give the election the attention it requires. But then all this other shit is going on that they can't hide. It's like no one really cares about what day this wedding's happening, right?
Like, why would the Queen clear an interview with Andrew about Jeffrey Epstein during an election?
Yeah.
And it means that now the party leaders are being asked about Prince Andrew. There was a debate last week between the Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, and they were both asked, is the monarchy fit for purpose?
Yeah, so Corbyn said needs a bit of improvement, which had a bit of a mixed response, but, you know, applause was definitely there.
And Johnson got like a pretty mixed response too when he said the institution of the monarchy is beyond reproach. But they were a little less unequivocal when they were asked if Andrew himself was beyond reproach. Corbyn did the smart thing and put all the attention on the victims and said we should focus on Epstein's victims. But he did add that I think there are very, very serious questions that must be answered. Nobody should be above the law.
Johnson went along the same lines, kind of vaguely like, all our sympathy should be with the victims of Epstein. The law must certainly take its course.
Yeah.
So
they looked so chummy together back at the Royal Albert Hall recently, but
yeah,
he doesn't have his back anymore. We've been getting some mixed messages from the Queen.
Yeah.
Because initially we heard that she had given her approval to this interview. Emily Maitlis had written a piece in the Times where she described them having to wait to proceed until Andrew had gotten the all clear from Mummy. And that when he did, they went ahead with the interview. But now the palace is backtracking and saying that she actually never gave her approval for this interview. And even worse than that, that she is aggrieved that people even think that she would.
She has, I think, kind of gone up a step from the church car ride photos to horse riding photos now. And we've got the pictures of her with Andrew having a serious chat on horseback.
I mean, those awful pictures the weekend after Epstein died are burned in our brains. Mm. And I was so disgusted to see her out on horseback with Andrew in Windsor like it was no big thing.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, we don't know what they were talking about. Maybe she was, you know, giving him some stern words. No way.
You don't do that on horseback. Like, are you telling me she doesn't have an office?
Especially they were accompanied by 2 protection officers. I don't know. There was 2 other people with them. She's not going to be having that conversation with other people around.
No way.
We heard just a few days after those pictures that the Queen has apparently cancelled a party she planned to host for Andrew. He's turning 60 next year, and it was going to be a party that would highlight all his charity work. And instead, she will hold a small family dinner, which is no party at all in Andrew's eyes.
Well, you know, she probably just didn't realise that he's not a party person, and he never has been. She was confused like the rest of us.
And she has banned him from meeting Donald Trump.
Oh my god.
Week.
So she's literally cancelled his party and told him he can't have a play date. This man is just a big baby.
And in the Times, they noted that there is a feeling in royal circles that the monarch was hoodwinked by her son, that he didn't fully explain the whole interview proposal, just that he was planning to address the controversy without going into any details. Why didn't she ask for those details?
Yeah.
Is that not her job?
I mean, if she can't even keep track of what her family's up to, how is she meant to be a credible head of the country?
I know, it's so shocking. And you keep hearing people saying, oh, the poor Queen, she's 93. I feel so sorry for her. Doesn't anyone have any sympathy for the Queen? Absolutely not.
No way. And I'm sorry, but more and more stuff seems to be coming out about Andrew, and it's spanning a bigger and bigger amount of time. It's so clear that she can't have not known about any of this stuff for decades.
And been actively involved in shielding him from the repercussions of his incredibly stupid and possibly criminal actions. There is just no end to the shadiness around all of this. You know, it raises very serious questions about the Queen's judgment. Obviously, as they were first saying that she was supporting Andrew and she approved of him doing the interview, and then they were totally like changing their tune around that. They realised that the Queen's reputation is at risk here, and this is apparently their way of avoiding any kind of reputational damage for her, but it just makes her judgment look very poor. It makes it look like she has this glaring blind spot around her supposed favourite son, and that she can be easily manipulated by him and also by Boris Johnson. Recently we saw him mislead her into proroguing Parliament. It is casting her in a very bad light.
Is going to undermine the smoke and mirrors that the Crown taught us is part of their power.
But now they're trying to make her look like she's a very decisive and effective and responsible leader. But from all that we've heard about it, it was Charles that stepped in and took action. And as well as that, we heard Prince William was trying to get a look in as well, that his team were going to the Times to say that he was also involved in these conversations with the Queen and Charles over the decision to remove Andrew from royal duties. They had a source saying, William thinks the right thing happened. And another one who said, William is becoming more and more involved in decisions about the institution of the monarchy, and he's not a huge fan of his uncle Andrew. He's not a huge fan.
If all he can say is not a big fan of his uncle, I can't imagine him taking this firm line about who gets titles, who gets money, who gets patronages. Whereas you kind of can imagine that with Charles.
But the message is pretty clear here. Even though we're getting some kind of confusing signals from the Queen, Charles and Will want everyone to know that the monarchy is in safe hands, that when the Queen dies, Charles and subsequently Will act decisively and responsibly and objectively, and nobody needs to worry about them.
But they're not the only people in the family who are taking a hard line on Andrew, because Meghan Markle made sure that her friends showed their concern about his language and what he was saying in his interview. Apparently, friends of the Duchess of Sussex were said to be horrified by the manner in which the Duke of York dismissed allegations that he had sex with a teenager. The Duke denied Virginia Roberts Giuffre's claims that they had a number of sexual encounters, telling the BBC that he would have recalled if they had, because sex for a man was a positive act. The Duke's explanation is understood to have left friends of the Duchess, who has championed the cause of female victims of violence, feeling uncomfortable.
This is such a curious line, or a few lines to include, because this was a story in the Telegraph that was ostensibly about Andrew losing his office in Buckingham Palace and his role at Picture Palace being under threat, but it had the URL exclusive. Duchess Sussex left aghast at Prince Andrew's description. So
they really wanted to get the Meghan angle.
But also, clearly, Meghan wants it out there that she is not supporting Andrew. And we know Meghan has gone to the Telegraph before when she gave Bryony Gordon the exclusive on her appearance at the Luminary Bakery opening. But aside from Meghan, we had another surprising reaction from a member of the family in Prince Philip, that while his wife is being supportive of Andrew, Philip is pissed as hell.
Pissed as hell, and pissed as hell with Fergie as well.
We know that Philip has long loathed Fergie and blames her for bringing shame on the family in the 80s. But the fact that she is said to have encouraged Andrew to do this Newsnight interview in the first place has made things so much worse. They had a royal source speaking to the Sunday Mirror who said that Philip feels Andrew is undoing all the good work the Queen has done. He is angry the Duchess of York was involved in any way. Many friends think Sarah gave him false confidence.
It's interesting though, because all the Andrew making racist comments whilst on official business. He could have learned
heard that from Daddy.
from his dad. So for Philip to now turn around and say, this is undoing all the good work, is like, well, you've been working at this yourself for a while.
The big story this weekend, though, is all about Andrew's dodgy finances. So I thought it was a little bit interesting that Andrew announced he was stepping down from his royal duties just as the press were starting to sniff around his finances and questioning how he was leading this luxurious billionaire lifestyle on relatively modest. He was getting $20,000 a year from his Royal Navy pension, and then a reported £249,000 of an allowance from the Queen to run his official office. Now it's been suggested she was actually giving him a good bit more money than that.
What a surprise.
But there is a blockbuster report in the Mail on Sunday today that reveals very damning details of Andrew's business activities with the multi-millionaire property tycoon and former tax exile, David Rowland.
This guy is apparently like an older surrogate brother to Andrew. So Charles must be delighted to hear that. And, for example, in 2010, he was invited to Balmoral as Andrew's guest, and apparently he met the Queen and had tea with Prince Charles. And then 4 months later, he paid £40,000 to help clear Fergie's debts.
Andrew has such a taste for these older, super rich men who can help him pay off his ex-wife's debts.
He loves that, doesn't he? It's one of his favourite things.
But that's something that had been reported before. This new stuff has all to do with Andrew's position as the UK's trade envoy from 2001 to 2011, a position that he is accused of exploiting to help his rich buddy David Rowland. So the major points from this major report are that Andrew had a 40% stake in a firm based in the British Virgin Islands, which was called Inverness Asset Management, and it was in existence until March this year, although it's not clear if the venture ever made any money for Andrew. But a document revealed that various contacts of the company, which included other royal families, heads of state, wealthy individuals, would be targeted as potential investors in a separate fund to be based in the Cayman Islands and promising a tax-free income.
Which is really great for someone who's meant to be promoting British interests.
And at the same time, Andrew was allowing David Rowland's son Jonathan to tag along with him on these taxpayer-funded official trade missions. So one was to China, at which Jonathan used these meetings to plug his family's bank in Luxembourg, which is for super rich individuals. And Andrew was like, oh, Jonathan, tell us what meetings you want to come along to. And Jonathan said, okay, what if we could set up an extra meeting? Is there a slot in the schedule for us to meet with the president of Ping An, which is the world's largest insurance company? And they did allow him to insert this meeting, and Jonathan and Andrew went on, and he proposed that they would become business partners. And as well as that, there are claims that Amanda Thirsk, who is Andrew's aide, who is said to have had a lot to do with this Newsnight interview and recently resigned, she is accused of handing the Rowlands Foreign Office documents that were intended only for government officials and contained details of Andrew's one-to-one conversations with senior Chinese politicians.
She's just full of great ideas. She always makes great choices. On another occasion, though, this isn't the only kind of thing about inside information, because Andrew demanded a private briefing memo from Treasury chiefs about the Icelandic financial crisis, and then he passed on the information to the Rowlands, who bought a collapsed Icelandic bank in an £86 million deal. So it's literally just passing them information that could benefit them. He also took him on this is Jonathan, the son, on an official trade mission to Saudi Arabia. So they met Prince Sultan bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, who's the second son of the country's current monarch. And after that meeting, Jonathan told the Saudi royal via an aide that Andrew was considering becoming a partner in his family's bank and asked him if he would like a stake in it too. So using Andrew as a bargaining chip, as bait. And he had boasted apparently in emails with the Saudi prince that he acted as a middleman, not just for Andrew, but for the British royal family.
The cheek of him.
During another trip then, Andrew lobbied the King of Bahrain about the Rowlands' plan to open an offshoot of their bank in the Middle Eastern country, which would have been potentially very lucrative, so setting up branches in the Middle East for them.
And if that wasn't enough, then he telephoned them later. He rang them up and was like, can we get this moving? Can we move things on here?
And let's just reiterate that these trips are meant to be about promoting British interests abroad and not personal agendas or personal interests.
Absolutely. And that's what the palace said in a statement. They said in that time that Andrew was the special representative for international trade and investment. The aim and that of his office was to promote Britain and British interests overseas, not the interests of individuals, even though that seems to be exactly what he was doing. And I thought there was a detail that was so revealing of Andrew's character and would also make you quite worried for what's going to happen when he has stepped back from his royal duties. They had some emails between Jonathan, the son, and Andrew talking about the fact that Andrew's role as trade envoy was at risk. Remember, we talked before about how when the Jeffrey Epstein scandal was unfolding and people were calling for him to resign, so they were talking about that, and Jonathan said that they should secretly continue their business relationship under the radar to escape media scrutiny. And Andrew replies, "I like your thinking!" ! He was giddy with his fat fingers on the keyboard.
Yeah, as far as he could type it. They also talked about how if he was to lose this position, he would then be free to act without much accountability. So they just wanted Andrew to be able to continue with these kind of skeezy schemes without having to, answer to
anybody.
Anyone, yeah.
Now, the Mail had reaction from Chris Bryant, who's a former Foreign Office Minister, who was demanding a parliamentary inquiry into Andrew's business behaviour. He said it all just stinks. I don't think he has ever been able to draw a distinction between his own personal interest and the national interest. It's morally offensive. And they had some other former MPs and stuff calling for Andrew to be stripped of his HRH.
It's a bit worrying for Charles because according to the Mail on Sunday, a whistleblower personally emailed him in August warning him about these business links with David Rowland.
Yeah, it definitely calls into question Charles's judgment and also the Queen's judgment again. Apparently, when Andrew went on that trip to Saudi Arabia, the meetings were recorded in the palace's court circular, which is approved by the Queen, and it was recorded as an official trade envoy trip, although the nature of his visit, beyond lobbying the monarch on behalf of his friends, remains very ambiguous.
Yeah, I'd really like to see if they could come up with a list of points to counter this that involve all the things that he did for the country as opposed to his friends.
So what's next for Andrew?
We've seen a lot of visits from Fergie popping over to Burke House to see Andrew, and according to Vanity Fair, they plan to take a vacation to the chalet they co-own in Switzerland, but they will be expected at Sandringham for Christmas.
Harry and Meghan just look like such geniuses.
Yeah.
For missing out on all this.
Oh yeah, I'm actually not going to go either. I've decided.
Andrew's apparently preparing to give evidence about Epstein to a US criminal investigation, which the family is bracing themselves for.
Oh, God.
And things could probably get even worse. I imagine there's going to be a lot of fallout from Virginia Roberts' interview with Panorama on the BBC on Monday, tonight. It was originally meant to be 30 minutes long and it's been extended to a full hour. They released a clip that looked very compelling. I think, she's been saying the same story for years now to anyone that'll listen, and she's always seemed very genuine and a very credible accuser. But I think having this platform on BBC One and on prime time, and especially given Andrew shooting himself in the foot with that train wreck interview himself, there is going to be a lot more attention on her and people might actually listen this time.
But with this program coming up, you might have been ignoring other royal TV moments.
Are you asking me about my quote of the week?
Yeah.
It's gotta be Caitlyn Jenner. She is currently a contestant on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And while she was having a meal with her other jungle mates, she said, "Do you think the Queen watches this show? This is a big show in the UK. I wonder if the royal family is watching. What if the Queen watches? Because in some way, I'm part of the royal family of entertainment. One royal family meets the other royal family, you know? You know?
No, you know.
Do you know, Tom? I know.
I know. Yeah, I know.
I love it. I firmly believe the Kardashians are the royal family of entertainment. And I do think it's very possible that the Queen watches I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
Yeah, I'd say Philip loves it. I'd say he loves when they eat bugs.
What is your quote of the week, Tom?
My quote of the week comes from Emerald Fennell, who just gave us a star turn as Camilla in The Crown. And she said in a Vulture interview, "I hope people are going to the hairdresser now and saying, 'Give me the Camilla.'" And of course she's referring to the beautiful silky long bob with bangs that she...
Bangs? Yank.
Well, for the benefit of any Americans listening.
A fringe.
It was a very distinctive hairstyle.
And she loved it. She looked great in it.
I would really like to see more people just when I go about my daily...
Is that a hint? I mean, I could if I would, but my hair is too curly to have Camilla hair.
What about Fit for a Queen?
You know, I thought we were having a very dry week, and then we got a superb post from Kensington Royal teasing the Kate British Bake Off, the show they're doing with Mary Berry of Great British Bake Off fame, called A Berry Royal Christmas.
Which is not as good as Kate British Bake Off.
On the BBC on the 16th of December, we're going to see Kate and Will cooking with Mary Berry and Nadia Hussain, the Bake Off winner from a few years ago, and meeting with charities and cooking for the volunteers he'll be working over the Christmas period. But I loved that Kate was wearing this fabulously festive red dress covered in polka dots and petals, long sleeves, pleated skirt. It was by Alessandra Rich, who is the same designer who did that navy polka dot dress, kind of similar shape, that she wore in Charles's official 70th birthday portraits, and also in Bletchley Park when she had that like thigh-high moment this summer that everybody went crazy over. The original version of this dress had like a keyhole detail in the front showing, you know, some cleavage, but Kate said no thanks, and they got a pussy bow put on it. The pussy bow is really becoming a Kate signature. I was thinking back on all the times she's worn it, and it's a real staple in her wardrobe. Like, we had the purple Gucci blouse, the pink Stella McCartney dress at Archie's christening with the pussy bow. She had that Eli Saab, the blue dress that she wore at Ascot. But it had that lovely 40s style silhouette and just like fabulous festive colour. Then the perfect accessory, Mary Berry's Christmas meringue roulade.
I thought you were going to say Will in an apron. The perfect accessory.
I did find, while I was reading reports about this show, that apparently back in 2016, at that dinner at Houghton Hall, where we get that picture that's used all the time of Will and Kate and Rose Hanbury, the Marchioness of Cholmondeley, and Kate's kind of giving her a side eye. This event in 2016, Kate and Will met the chefs after, and Kate said, "William has to put up with my cooking most of the time." And then William joked, he made this joke, "It's the reason I'm so skinny, because my bloody wife is such a terrible cook." Fucking brat.
Rude. I don't care
More
if you're
than
the
rude.
I don't care if you're the future king. Show some goddamn respect. But anyway, she's probably going to blow him out of the water with this roulade, so I'm delighted for that.
And finally, first in line.
It's Charles.
The first in line.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has come out pretty badly from this situation, especially, the Queen, as we were saying. It looks very weak, but he is looking really good because we're getting all these reports of him calling up the Queen and saying he's got to go, and then insisting that once he gets back from his tour, he's going to have this one-on-one chat with Andrew. He's going to get all the details out. It has to be totally honest, laying everything out on the table, no more secrets. He's like, I am in control now.
He really comes across as the one who's leading the family through the crisis, that he's the steady pair of hands, that while this was all happening, he was on his tour of New Zealand with Camilla, and he took time out from the tour to ring up the Queen and lay down the law, and then he carried on with his work.
The show must go on.
Exactly. And I thought it was very interesting the way people were talking about this showdown that he is going to have with Andrew. It may be happening at this very moment, now that he's back in Clarence's house. A source told Vanity Fair, he'll let rip. And Sunday Mirror had a source saying that Charles has told his brother to be completely upfront, open and honest with him, and that if there is anything else he thinks could come out. He knows how damaging this issue is for the family, knows it has the potential to get much worse, and is taking it very, very seriously. Obviously the Queen didn't take it very, very seriously until it blew up in her face.
Yeah.
So at least somebody is.
Clearly it's very obvious you need to get somebody in charge of this who doesn't like Andrew. And there's fucking loads of them to pick from. It's just the Queen who loves him.
And who will indulge him. But at the same time, it is such a fantastic coincidence that all of this is happening at the same time as The Crown Season 3 has come out and given Charles the best PR of his life with an extremely sympathetic portrayal by Josh O'Connor that is making everybody feel so sorry for Charles. By the way, if you haven't already listened to our 4 royal recap episodes for The Crown Season 3, they're all there waiting for you.
And you can hear a lot more of how I feel about Emerald Fennell as Camilla.
And Peter Morgan as Charles's new PR man.
Yeah. What have we got coming up next week?
Tomorrow, or today, if you're listening to this on Monday, Virginia Roberts' interview will be going out on BBC on Panorama. So we are going to do a bonus episode once we've watched it. I hope this is as much of a bombshell and has the lasting impact, though for a very different reason, that Andrew's interview did. As well as that Will is currently in Kuwait for a 4-day tour, and Donald Trump will be arriving for his 3-day visit, during which we will see an evening reception for the NATO leaders in Buckingham Palace, which will likely involve Kate Middleton in a tiara.
And likely not involve Andrew at all. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, please rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Even better, tell a friend.
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at AirheadsPod and on Facebook at Airheads.
And until our bonus episode, thanks so much for listening.
Have a great week.
Bye.